Brazil is prosecuting their popular former president who would be re-elected if allowed to run. This is a major problem for the Americas, where socialist dictatorships like those of current Brazilian President Lula da Silva are taking hold in places like Brazil and even Honduras. President Trump has imposed a 50% tariff on most Brazilian imports effective August 6, 2025, citing Brazil's prosecution of President Trump's friend and ally Jair Bolsonaro. He says it is an economic emergency. The prosecution has emerged as the crazy Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexander Moraes has acted like a dictator of the country. Months ago, Jair Bolsonaro's son made the case on our program that he should be sanctioned.
So what Alexandre Moraes is doing is he's invading the U.S. jurisdiction, just like the prosecutors of the ICC, Karim Khan, did when he tried to jail Benjamin Netanyahu. So as President Donald Trump sanctioned with OFAC sanctions this prosecutor and his team of investigators, we think that the same thing can happen with Alexandre de Moraes and stop the justice of the Supreme Court from all of this persecution.
And that's now exactly what happened. Justice Alexander Moraes, overseeing Bolsonaro's trial, has been targeted under the Global Magnitsky Act, facing visa bans, asset freezes, and that's a good thing. That's the type of development that shows that America is back and that we're not going to allow this type of just a crazy erosion of democracy in the Americas at the hand of somebody that I believe the Biden administration and USAID put in office over the will of the voters. Now, supporters of Bolsonaro have taken to the streets in cities like Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro to protest Supreme Court actions and Lula's government. Meanwhile, Bolsonaro is under house arrest with an ankle monitor. He faces up to 40 years in prison for these phony, contrived, coup-related crimes. Despite legal restrictions that are barring him from running for office, he is still saying he intends to run in 2026. Eduardo Bolsonaro is a member of the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies, that is akin to Brazil's Congress. He's the son of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who is now facing up to 40 years in prison. Eduardo joins us now. So we are getting breaking news that an arrest warrant has been issued for your father by the corrupt justice of the Brazilian Supreme Court, Alexander Moraes, who's just been sanctioned by the United States government. We're getting reports that people are searching for your father in Brazil around his home. Is that true? And what's your reaction?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, we were really waiting for that because Alexandre de Moraes is used to double down. And every time that you have something, a fact against him happening, like yesterday's protest, massive protests, people in more than 60 cities all around Brazil protesting against him. And today, the journalist Michael Schellenberg just released some private WhatsApp groups that connect Alexandre de Moraes and his team, clearly persecuting right-wing people, trying to jail them, jailing them, because their political opinions, because their posts on social media. So this day now, what Alexandre Moraes is doing is he's reacting for all of that. He's trying to get all the attention in the news for the fact that he is decreting the house arrest of Jair Bolsonaro. And he's doing that because Jair Bolsonaro, even he was respecting all the illegal orders of Alexandre de Moraes. He wasn't talking with me, his own son. He wasn't using his social media, but he did a video call in one of the protests in Rio de Janeiro. And because of that, Moraes said that a lot of people shared that video in the social media. And it is so he considered that as Bolsonaro not accomplishing his orders. So that's why Alexandre de Moraes is decreting the arresting, the house arrest against Jair Bolsonaro, basically because Bolsonaro was supporting people on the streets in a manifestation against Alexandre de Moraes. That's just unbelievable, unbelievable.
You came on this program and called for these specific Magnitsky Act sanctions against Moraes. The Trump administration moved to execute on that plan that you had laid out. Now we're seeing this effort to arrest your father. Do you think that this effort is a direct result of your calls and President Trump's subsequent action? And if so, are you preparing for your father to be detained and go to prison?
Yeah. We all know how they act. And they already said that they would not repeat the same mistake that happened in the US, which means that Alexandre de Moraes is running, he's speeding up as much as possible, as fast as possible to condemn Jair Bolsonaro before the next year election. So he's really hard working for that. But thanks God, we have in the United States a great president, a great leader called Donald J. Trump, and he's giving tariffs against this financial system that supports Moraes, and also now individually applying Magnitsky Global Act against Alexandre de Moraes. So as all of dictators in the end of these days, in the end of their last days, he is reacting for that. He's desesperated. He's losing support in the Supreme Court. He asked for all of the 11 justices of the Supreme Court to sign a declaration in favor of him against Donald Trump. He didn't get even half of the justice in the Supreme Court supporting him. So he's in a very weak moment. And I'm feeling that we have an opportunity to move forward and also pressure the Senate of Brazil to do the impeachment of Alexandre de Moraes, and also the Congress to approve what we call the amnesty bill, to do not let these people go through the Alexandre de Moraes' hands, because, Matt, Brazil is the only one case that I know that the Supreme Court is judging people like regular and common people. It doesn't happen in regular democracies. It doesn't happen in other countries in the West. So we have to do this step forward, because other case, Brazil is going to be deep in the Venezuela way.
Tell us what's happening in the streets, because we have seen there's thousands protesting against this government, supporting your father. What kind of dynamic is that creating for the people of Brazil?
First, the people was celebrating the Magnitsky Global Act against Alexandre de Moraes. Once Alexandre de Moraes was targeted, people felt free to go back to the streets. Because every time that you have a protest in Brazil, the left go to the Congress and start to say, oh, be careful, you can go to the jail. Look, the January 8 guys that did go to the jail, and some of them are still there. You have hundreds of people that are receiving punishment of even 17 years in jail. But you had yesterday, on Sunday, 3 times more people than we were expecting, and in more than 60 cities all over Brazil. So people is really like, is screaming and is asking for freedom and feeling that you have some hope coming from United States. It's for the first time we are looking at Alexandre de Moraes desesperated for weeks in the defensive position. So this is what we are expecting. And also, again, United States not going to save Brazil, is not going to do everything. We Brazilians, we need to take action. We need to pressure the senators and pressure the Congress in favor of the amnesty bill, and to stop with all of this persecution, at least to change the page and bring more lights for Brazil. Because on the way that we are arresting the leader of the polls, which is Jair Bolsonaro, that is clearly is going to win the next year election if he can run. Brazil is not going to have a regular election next year. And likely there is a high risk that the United States not going to recognize our election, because we have some other issues around. And it will be very bad for Brazil if we receive the same treatment of Venezuela with the narco dictatorship of Nicolás Maduro.
It would be a shock to the Americas if we saw Brazil continue this slide. Eduardo Bolsonaro, the son of Jair Bolsonaro, a man on the run at the moment, and certainly on the run from his government, but running for his people and doing everything he can to liberate the people of Brazil from this tragic circumstance. And thank you so much for joining the program and making the case.
Thank you very much, Matt. And thank you, President Donald Trump, Secretary Rubio, Secretary Bessent. We really appreciate your work, and believe we are going to win this war.
Amen. Well, thank you, and best to your father.